Mabuhay, Kamusika, welcome, how are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. Filipino style. We moved in with my mother, something I thought I would never do. Now, I grew up in a home where my grandmother lived with us, and she did an amazing amount of lawn work and cooking and cleaning, and she had her own job for a while before she had to retire. But this is something, and by the way, our background is Latvian, and so it's very common there too that your mother lives with you, and can be very helpful. Although other societies may not welcome the mother there, and so that could cause some problems. So it's always something to be a little bit use some discretion if you're going to be living with your mother and you're married. And yeah, they do it in the Philippines, but can it work here? Well, it all depends. It was my wife that asked if we could move in with my mom. When my wife got here, we lived in an apartment, and my mom lived in a townhome, which she had been in for about 9 years, all by herself. She had bought it, I believe, when my stepfather was still alive, and then as they were building it, he passed away. So they have this larger townhouse with a finished basement. Nothing was in it. Of course, she had just been by herself, and she never really even went downstairs. And so you ask yourself, well, why would God have her and them buy this townhome, and then he dies before ever being able to move in with her? I just thought that was so unusual. But, here I am, I get married, and then my wife says, Mom is lonely, and we should move in with her and keep her company, and so we can do things for her. And, this is such a wonderful gesture from my wife. However, it didn't meet with immediate acceptance on my part. We were looking for a house, but, we decided at one point we'd offer to live with my mom, when I thought, okay, well, if this makes Aiza happy, if we could help my mom with expenses, then that would be a good way to honor my mother, since my father passed away, a long time ago. And so I thought about it and was open to it, but wasn't, totally sure about this. And it wasn't automatic, as my mom decided to agree at the very last minute before we were going to close on a townhome. Her main concern in all of this is, what if we're arguing? She doesn't want to be here if we're arguing, and we all know what that's like. So she's also used to her privacy. So she wouldn't have to be taking a risk as well in allowing us to live with her. And what we do is we live downstairs. My mom lives upstairs. We certainly interact now and then. We eat supper upstairs, although my wife likes to eat, in bed sometimes, and use her phone. But basically, we're a happy household, and I owe a lot of that to my wife. So my wife, like many Filipinas, is used to having a big household. She's got 3 sisters, 2 brothers, Mama and Papa, other relatives stop by, and it's gotten even larger since I married her. And my mom had seen Aiza and I together quite a bit since we stopped over to be with her, and she observed how we treated each other, how we got along, and decided to offer to sell the house to us, and then we would be able to live all of us together. Now, my wife cooks, she cleans the dishes, keeps the kitchen clean for both of us, but my mom is very fastidious person with keeping things clean and organized, and it's a good thing that my wife is the same way. And now my wife isn't used to using some of the things. Early on, she might have loaded the dishwasher different, or done something with the dishes different, or I don't know, just things like that. That my mom is particular and she wants things done a certain way, and maybe Aiza likes the way she does it. And sometimes there's been some things we had to talk about, but no big deal. no big deal at all. Just, okay, we have to come to some understanding of how this is going to work so that we can all dwell in harmony. My wife asks my mom if there's anything she can do for her, and if there's anything I can do for my mom. I don't know about that woman. We live in the basement, which was finished but empty. We bought some furniture and moved some over from our apartment, and my wife picked the colors, her favorite colors, and we had it painted. And initially I was against moving in with my mom, but this does eliminate almost all of her expenses, and she does help us out regularly too, for a certain bill or two, and she doesn't need to, but she feels like, I guess she's saving so much money and the relationship is going so well that she'll help give us a little bit each month, and we appreciate that. So when I was single, I had the thought, well, maybe I should move in with my mom simply to help her and to honor her. And I thought, well, there's this stigma, about living with your mom, and you're like 45, 50 years old, and you're living with my mom. It's hard enough getting a date, wanting to get married. How in the world am I supposed to do that when I tell somebody, yeah, I live at home with my mom, Oh yeah, I'm just trying to take care of her, help meet her needs, pay her expenses, but will that person really see it that way? And so I kind of balked at it. Not as much with my wife, because I knew from where she was from, that was something that you just did. And they, excuse me, this stupid 9-month cough is not going away, I see. So it's going to be good for my wife. My wife does spend some time with my mom. It's certainly good for my mom, so that she's not alone all the time, and I think it was a good decision. I certainly weighed on what my wife thought was best and how my mom felt about it, and just kind of left the decision out to what was best for them, and it's worked out well. My wife has definitely been good for my mother, and now that my wife drives and has her own car, she offers to take my mom places or to go to the store for my mother. And a Filipina will regard your family as her family and your friends as her friends too. So, I guess my main concern in all of this has been that perhaps my mom thinks I don't spend as much time with her. I know my wife thinks I should spend more time with my mom. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm working 6 days a week. I have a wife I'm responsible to and want to be with, spend time with. And, I don't always think, well, the first thing I think about is to spend time with my mom. And my wife and I do spend some time, watching TV with her, or we'll buy some food and have her eat with us. So I don't know, there's no right or wrong amount of time I am to spend with her. My first priority is to my wife. And we're doing this, for the sake of my mother, and because my wife likes having another person around. If it's a family member, I think if she had her way, we would have another relative use the smaller bedroom upstairs. And but so far, I don't think that's going to happen. That room would be for a baby, if we had a baby someday. And that is something that I'm going back to trying to do for her. And if that happens, I certainly hope my mother, who just turned 85, I would like her to be around to see that child, if it's even possible. Right now, it's an absolute impossibility. But we're going to do everything we can, Lord willing, to see if that would happen. So my wife, very hard worker. She worked a full day when we moved in, and then came home and worked for 6.5 more hours on moving day. She's built her nest, and she keeps it neat and clean. I also love that she has so many photos around the house, photos with my mother, photos with my aunt and my cousin, and of course just the two of us together and with her family, and it adds a really nice different dynamic to this place. So she's organized the entire house. I mean, my mom organizes the upstairs, but there's some things that my mom allows my wife to do, since we're paying for most everything. But I think my wife would wait till my mother was gone before she really reorganized some things. I'm sure she has her ideas, but she respects my mom, and she's not going to ask to upheave the whole upstairs, to do things the way she wants. But one of these days, she'll have her chance to do that. We have a nice townhouse. Certainly not the most expensive townhouse. We have some of the highest property taxes in the entire country. But we live in a peaceful, safe neighborhood, which was important to me as my wife's protector. So, your family will know you made a smart choice when you married a Filipina, and they will probably love your Filipina as much as you do. My mom considers my wife her daughter and refers to both of us as the kids. She tells somebody else, well, the kids are home, or the kids are going to the Philippines, or something like that. Kind of interesting. So, my wife calls my mother Mom. And my sister, who died at age 51 from cervical cancer, told me before she died, you're going to marry a Filipina. And I told her, I don't know any Filipinas. How am I going to marry a Filipina? I can't even marry somebody from here. And I would scold her, thinking, well, it's just farcical. That's impossible. She said, well, you've always liked Filipinas. I know God can get you a Filipina. And I kind of resented that because I thought it was so far-fetched. Now, of course, I'm married a Filipina who I know would be really good for my sister. It would enhance my sister's life. She would be very friendly towards her, and it would have made my sister's life better. But God had other plans and took her about age 51 or so from cancer. So marry a Filipina if you can. Certainly they're good with family. And I can tell you that my mother, living with us, does not regret one bit that I married my love beyond the sea.